How hard did you push it? Till I black out? Yes. Numerous times, yes.
What's happening, Municipals? This is your boy Big C. We have a special guest. If you don't follow him, you should follow him on Instagram, PNW Golfer. My good friend, Scott Brooks. How's it going, my man?
What's up, dude? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So what Scott does, you're a videographer, photographer. I don't want to like pinhole you into golf. I mean, you focus mainly on golf, but you do stuff, on the side for other stuff too. But mainly, especially if you follow your Instagram, it's golf related.
Certainly, yeah. That's where my passion lies. I do have some cool partnerships outside of the golf world, but it is predominantly, that's what's led me to do what I do behind the lens the last few years is just my love of golf photography. And it's obviously been a fun ride because, right now, certainly, especially content is kind of at the forefront. And, that wasn't the case, I'd say 5 or 6 years ago. And especially, the whole YouTube kind of era has popped off quite a bit. And so that's another one of my goals, I guess, for this year is getting the YouTube page set up, kind of some more long form content, to kind of, expand my creative style a little bit.
I mean, that's what we did last year. I mean, that was our big thing that we wanted to do. And we were able to put a 4-part series out, which came out as good as we thought. We thought maybe we would creep up to 2,000 or 3,000 people to view it. And I think we're at 13,000 right now. So,
yeah.
Chump change to what a lot of the other people are doing in the space. But for our first go at it, learning a lot in the process, I think it's a big success for us in our opinion.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge. You got to start somewhere. And honestly, like that's how I got into the golf photography side of it is I've always had a love for photography, landscape photography since I was a young child. Like Ansel Adams was always a big inspiration of mine. And he, like when I started golfing, I guess, I played competitive baseball growing up, and that was kind of my passion, I guess, early. But always was around the game of golf. My dad always played weekend games, so I was always out with him. And never allowed to swing a golf club in baseball season and all that. But, as I got like 22, 23, kind of, baseball ended for me. I started playing golf more, and I just realized, there was a lot of similarities to what shapes look like on a golf course to what some of the landscape around me, especially, I'm born and raised in the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, predominantly most of my life. And so we have some beautiful landscape around us. And it just has allowed me to kind of, specialize my craft into golf. And yeah, man, it's a pretty fun thing to have as a passion, and especially when it leads to you being able to make some money from it. I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, I think me and you met. We were dew sweeping out at Wildwood with Ryan and Aaron, and I think you were just getting started at that time. I think you're doing some projects with Ryan for Wildwood. So kind of in that space, who would you say was probably the biggest help for you kind of getting launched and, getting you there? And what were the courses that probably helped you kind of get to where you are right now?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's funny because it really started from, I had my personal Instagram was just all golf, right? And everybody, the running joke from all my friends was like, hey man, we get it. You like golf, like that. We don't need to see every single golf course you're at and all this stuff. So I was like, oh, I'll start a golf Instagram page. And that's what PNW Golfer started as. It's just iPhone pics when I was out on the course, doing this and that. And then, you know, I think like 2016, 2017, I started taking my camera back out to the course and shooting some stuff. But never doing it like, you know, never thinking of it seriously. But about, I think it was 2020, COVID, ended up getting my first drone. And that was when everything clicked for me as far as, you know, what I truly love about golf photography, and, you know, allowing myself to capture landscapes at, you know, an angle that I once was never able to. And so that was right around that time, I feel like, because it was that COVID era that we were all
Yep.
out there playing golf early.
That was 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was that year.
Yep. And so, yeah, that was, you know, obviously, like, that was a big one, like Ryan at Wildwood, you know, that was, you know, I think maybe the first check that I actually cashed in the industry. So I'm always grateful for him. But it's funny because I've done so much out there, right? Like, that's just my hobby place to go shoot.
Yeah.
And I go back to, you know, like this year, past years, I've been fortunate to play some amazing golf courses, shoot some amazing content. And I'm very, very proud to this day that the reel with the most views on my Instagram is Wildwood. And that's a testament to what the whole vibe is out there and just the community that's been created here in the area and then also in the Northwest. Because I think that's the thing is like everybody, you know, like I'll go to Bandon, everybody loves the Bandon content and the Sand Valley and Landman and all that stuff. But like what I find most interesting is like those hidden gems, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I take pride in like Elk Ridge also. Like I think I put a lot of people onto Elk Ridge in like, you know, in like the 2019, 2020 COVID era. They were one course that stayed open, right? Because they you know, Washington shut down. But again, they're kind of rural. They kind of do things on their the way they want to do it out there. So they were like, "You guys can come play. We'll take your money," you know. And it was just one of those that I loved doing that. But you know, Wildwood, Gamble Sands was also one of the places I knew the director of marketing. He's still a good friend of mine, Brian Bennett. He's actually down at Grass Clippings Club right now.
Okay.
Work for them, and he was up there, and we got connected through a friend of mine, and he was just like, "Hey man, we want to have you up. Just like come do your thing." And so that was like my first all expenses paid. We'll have you out, you know, do your thing. And that was like eye opening to me too, of just like, one, how cool of a property that was, and that they wanted me to come out. So it was like, well, if they want me to come out, then like, you know, I feel like everybody should want me to come out.
Yeah.
And it just kind of snowballed into that. And really 2023 was quite a good year for me. I got a couple good projects, but last year was the year that it kind of like, I was on the road quite a bit, doing quite a bit of work. And I really made it a focus to try to make this my full-time thing. And it's been so much fun, man. I'm super grateful to all my clients and everybody that's put trust in me to, you know, to try to make their golf course look as good as it possibly can.
I mean, you know, Ryan and his crew do a great job out at Wildwood, and I mean, it looks spectacular on its own, but there's a reason why it's probably your most viewed reel. Like, I mean, you made it look really good.
Thank you.
I mean, the property that they're in too, it's kind of like in this like little nook in like cranny of this like hill, like mountainside of this beautiful like tree forest. And it's a gorgeous piece of property.
I mean, there's like 3 little valleys. Oh yeah. And I mean, and that's the thing. And then you have, you know, Sobeys Island and the whole wetlands area and everything. And so that's why another thing that I don't think a lot of people understand is like they, you know, and right now, like they're doing work with, you know, some of the local, you know, municipalities to protect the water and protect the wetlands there. And they spend a lot of money doing that, and they don't get revenue back from that. You know, they don't get any kind of benefit from that. And so that's the other thing is I think it's not just like what they try to do to the course, improving it, obviously, that they've done. But they try to do the right thing for the community out there too. And so I know a lot of people out in Scappoose that, always, take pride in wearing that Squatch logo around. And so again, it's been really fun to be a part of that kind of whole journey. And again, kudos to Ryan and his squad for, all the work they've done. Because again, I'll tell you what, if you're from the area and you golfed Wildwood in 2015 and prior, a very different place than it would
Very
be
different.
today. So
Ryan has flipped the script on Wildwood, and I mean, we've praised him on the podcast. I mean, countless times. I've used Wildwood as a kind of like a beacon of light when I'm talking about public courses, especially in the Pacific Northwest, because one thing we experienced over in Minneapolis was just the hospitality and how they treat their men's and women's clubs and how integral they are to the community. And Ryan is probably the best example we have in the Pacific Northwest of that. Well, at least in the Portland area.
yeah, I was gonna say, I think another great example is out at the coast, right? Maddie Brown. I think those are two.
Yes,
and
I don't want to ever
no,
disgrace
but
Nathan and Maddie.
two peas in a pod, right? And that's why they're, they have a little group chat, and they trade ideas, and as they should, because it's it's just communities should be very grateful to have people like that, because Wildwood's gotten offers for that property, and it's something that has been a conversation in the past few years, but right now the outlook is expanding and, trying to do as much as they can rather than let's try to figure out a way to unload this property. Right. But it's been a part of his family's legacy. And I think he wants it to always be a part of his family's legacy. Right. And so that's the cool thing is when you see owner operators like that, and when you see people, not necessarily owners, but GMs, and when you see head pros, and when you see people that are invested in the places that they work, I mean, those are the people I want to work with, because they get it, right? They understand what the bigger picture is, because this game is changing, and unfortunately, right now, the game overall, I think and YouTube golf's doing great, and social media and everything's doing great to highlight that. But I think the masses are still viewing what's going on in the professional world as a huge negative. And, there's going to be repercussions for that in the next wave of generations of kids coming out and playing, unless we try to do things. And, kudos to the tour, premiering tonight, right? The TGL and all that. And you got to try something, because I think, what the current model, what's going on right now isn't sufficient to last. Right. And so I think, and that's why you see bigger deals going to YouTube players, than PGA guys for sponsorship deals. They sell more clubs than, and I think that's, again, a testament to people looking at it being okay, outside of, my favorite guy, whether they're a top 10 guy, whether they're a top 50 guy, a top 100 guy, outside of that, no, I don't care what, Gary Woodland's doing this week. I don't really care what, Matt Kuchar's doing this week. I don't care, and shout out Kuch, Northwest guy. I shouldn't hate on him too. I actually
we'll throw Adam Hadwin under the bus.
Adam BC guy too. So I mean, I get. That's the one thing I will say. Shout out to BC. I'm coming to see you guys this year. You're gonna get some BC content, hopefully some Victoria content, because I've gotten so many people to hit me up being like, "Hey man, you're PNW golfer. You gotta loop Vancouver and BC, that part of it." And I'm like, I definitely want to represent for you guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always joke the only golf course I played in Canada is I can't remember, the Kensington Pitch and Putt in outside of Vancouver, BC. Buddy's bachelor party. We were like, let's go play golf. Didn't have any clubs, so we carried a bunch of like grocery bag full of beers out on the course. They gave us like 5 clubs for 10 guys to use, and we had a ball. So,
oh man, well yeah, BC is definitely. I mean, if you're going to be called, we got to get you up there.
Yeah,
that's for sure. But no, I'm 100% with you, and I think a lot of it is personality. I think everybody's seen these guys get paid crazy money. They don't want to talk in media days. They don't want to ever like really give back to the fans. And we miss that personality and style that we grew up with. Like Jesper Barnevik is one of my favorite like golfers of all time because he was wild in his attire and his dress, but he was also wild in how he went about playing and interacting with players and talking in media days, and you just don't have that. These guys are like robots now. I mean, it's like they're trained to say specific things. Like their PR teams don't let them be creative and out of the box anymore.
Well, and I think that's one challenge, right? Is like, like Payne Stewart was my favorite golfer, growing up. Like obviously
also a little out there.
Obviously Tiger, like everybody that's, I'm 36. So it's like, I still try to say I'm 35. My wife's always like, you're not 35 anymore, bud. But 36, everybody that's 30 to 40 years old and that's a golf fan is Tiger's their guy, right?
But he was also an asshole, and he was fiery as shit, and like he didn't give a fuck about anybody but himself, and we loved it. We ate it up.
And that's the thing. And then you had guys like Freddie, you had guys like, even Peter Jacobson, you had guys, Lee Trevino, you had personalities out there.
Yeah.
And
John Daly.
Yeah, right. Even Phil, like Phil was pretty tame back in the day, but he, he let it go a little bit. And I think, it's one of those things too where the guys that are crushing it on social media though, that are doing it are letting themselves, be a little more open to it, and that's making a big difference. And I think, that's the difference too in, I see it all the time. I have conversations about it all the time. There's a big difference from someone calling the shots on the marketing, PR, advertising, if they're over the age of 50 or if they're under the age of 35. There's going to be a massive, massive strategy difference. And I think that's the biggest challenge that's going on. That's one of the toughest conversations I'll have. I'll throw it out right now, that I'm having with clubs and golf courses and, trying to get them to understand that like social media is free. Like, paying me or paying someone to do some social media for you and create some content is really, really the easiest pay-per-clicks you're going to ever get. And I proved it, time after time. I have the analytics to show it. But again, it's so foreign, right? And I think the last 3 years, everybody's like, we're crushing. I don't need to do this. I don't need to do this. And I think pro golf was kind of in that same boat, right? Until this whole, the live separation happened. And now they're realizing like, okay, well, like we're going to have to think outside the box to get people really, coming back to us interested. And I think, golf courses are going to have to do the same thing. Country clubs are going to have to do the same thing as we move into, kind of an uncertain economy as far as, secondary spending goes. Because, I just think it's one of those things that the golf economy goes just like the regular economy, right? And it's golf's it's at an inflection point right now where it can keep going, and it can keep going at a great rate, or we could flatten out, and I think flattening out is what everybody's scared of. Certainly because there's been more dollars spent from the big club manufacturers now than ever to sell product. And so again, that's where you're seeing the big push, right? Is some of these guys have, brands that have someone in place running their content, running their whole thing for them. And so you're not seeing their personality, right? You're seeing whoever's running the social media accounts personality come through on how they want, and that's where I think, again, it's all like a lot of people think about it backwards, right? Like you got to be thinking about it from the consumer's perspective. And I think that's where I have a unique skill set, where I've been the golf degenerate, give me everything. I want to consume everything. And now you put me on the flip side of it, and it's like I understand what people are looking for and the value that you can bring as a golf course by just simply having some standard of digital marketing, right? And like having a website that you can click through and be like, whoa, this place looks cool. Because guess what? I can make Redtail look really, really good. And so it's like, if Redtail can look really, really good, any place can look really, really good, So, yeah. And I think too, it's just one of those things that I want to see courses do good, especially, the public courses that you can see make a big difference. And I mean, if the revenue turnaround that Wildwood's done, in the rounds per year is a big deal, right? And I think that's another reason why they're able to improve the course and give back, to the community. But yeah, you got to think about it full circle. And I think a lot of people right now in our economy and in our society, it's what have you done for me lately, and what are you doing for me right now? No one's really willing to take the long game. So again, it's like I kind of like shout out to you guys too, because I remember, like 2-3 years ago when you guys started the thing, and it's like what is
We're going on 5.
5? Okay, yeah. So again, so when we first met, it was just getting going, and shout out to you guys for staying with it through all, through it all, because I think a lot of people, that's the challenge, is they give up before it's, before they can do anything positive with it.
I think for us, it's very similar to you. It started out as a passion project, and it's turned into more than that. And we've always said that once it's not fun anymore, we're done doing it.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, it always has to stay fun, and we always have to enjoy it, because this is a hobby for us. And yes, if we can create a monetary value and be able to make this our job, fucking sick. That's amazing. That's always the end goal, but it still has to be fun. Like, we still have to enjoy it every time we're getting on the mic or we're going out and recording episodes. But you're 100% right. I think the change of guard needs to happen in the golf industry. I think the Matty Browns and the Jasons and the O'Mearas, I think there needs to be more of those guys, because, I played over 780 golf courses through COVID. So I wiped clean almost every golf course along the I-5 corridor from here all the way down to Southern California. And there are courses that, like, you couldn't even find information on, but then I show up to the course and they're spectacular.
Yeah.
And I always use this as kind of an example. Diamond Woods. Diamond Woods is just outside. It's in Monroe, Oregon. It's just outside of Eugene. I call it the poor man's Pumpkin Ridge. Like, it's a legit fantastic property. I mean, if they had a Ryan running Diamond Woods with that size of property, because it's actually very similar landscape to what Wildwood is, I mean, that place would be, you would get droves of people driving out of their way to play that course. But their website literally has no information on it. You walk into the clubhouse and, dude, I don't even think they've updated the product they have on the walls in 40 years. Yeah. Like, they're like tea bags that have been hanging there for like 20 years. Like, Pro V1s that are from like 2012. Crazy stuff. Like, haven't touched anything. You could tell they haven't put any money into the course, but it has everything it needs to be one of the best courses. And Webb Simpson won U.S. Open qualifier there.
Oh, crazy.
So, like, it's a legit course. But like you were saying, without having the GMs there, without having or understanding the use of social media and somebody like yourself, they need to showcase what they have.
Yeah.
And that's such a pivotal thing to be successful as a golf course or in golf in general nowadays.
Yeah.
If you're not utilizing social media and, having a proper website and all of those things, which I think like 75% of golf courses across the country still do not understand that whatsoever, I think they're missing out. And if we hit this plateau, we're going to start losing courses again.
Well, and that's
because you've been in it long enough as I have.
Yeah.
Dude, the 2010s, we lost courses in droves.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, unfortunately, we're, like Quail Valley, man, we're losing another one here in the Portland metro area. And I mean, Merriweather, I'm sure is only, going to be a matter of time before that.
Redtail's been rumored for years.
Yeah. I mean, in Quail, the thing is like, so like, not everybody knows this, but like I've done, I've worked in real estate for over a decade. My dad's been in, construction for 40 years. We've been pretty in tune to what's going on in the real estate world around here. And, Quail Valley's been up for sale, a private sale. It wasn't advertised for a long time. And Holt Homes bought the property actually 5 years ago. And they acquired it, and then they allowed Quail to operate. I'm sure there's some kind of revenue sharing, that is going on. But basically because they had to rezone the land to make houses. So it's Holt Homes that owns the property. And, the issue that I think a lot of people have in the community is that there is thousands of acres out there that's just sitting there, not being farmed properly, not being, there's no agricultural jobs being provided from it. So there's other spots that they could have built these properties and built this, subdivision. But unfortunately, they saw a community that, and I mean, doing the best they could right out there at Quail, but they just didn't have the resources to be able to put it back in. They didn't have, they were being ran by, a municipality that didn't understand the value of putting money back into the course. And that's where Ryan, how it happens, with Ryan is that it's a family operation, so they can make the call.
Privately owned, publicly accessible, and they can do what the fuck they want.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is that not a lot of people understand that, even with like Eastmoreland, Rose City, all these, like Kemper is running them, but the city owns the property, and the city owns, the city employs most of the employees. And it's, so again, it's the big picture is, it's not just about, one, and then the private side about it's not just about having a head pro in place, not a good super in place. It's about having the board's approval, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, the flip side of that, though, is I'll tell you what, how do you win the board's approval? 9 times out of 10, how do you get approval to do the things you want to do? By maximizing revenue. And how do you maximize revenue? You maximize the value that you can bring a consumer when they walk in to your shop and they see the gear that Wildwood has, or they see, the stuff that is down at Tokatee, the reason why Kennedy won, Merchandiser of the Year. And I mean,
Matty Brown won Merchandiser of the Year.
I was going to say, and I mean, look at those little.
And Matty Brown, Manzanita.
I was going to say,
is the
like
size of a bedroom.
For the amount of rounds that course gets, for the revenue that pro shop does, I mean, again, it's like I know there's private clubs that have 300 members that don't do the pro shop numbers that Manzanita Links does. So again, that's just, and again, I've seen it happen where you increase that revenue, you take that revenue from a number that is, just another number, and you take it to a number that is impressive. that's how you end up getting approval to do whatever you want if you're a GM, if you're a head pro, and that's how it's so much easier to get membership to approve, and board of directors to approve upgrades to courses too. But yeah, I mean, we're in a spot right now where I think, public golf is, we're very lucky in the Northwest, right? Like very, very lucky. There's other parts of the country, and especially, Southern California in particular, there's not good enough public options accessible for everyone. And so, again, I feel very grateful that we live where we do. It also, doesn't take much to keep grass green around here most times of the year too. So shout out to Mother Nature. And, we deal with, what we're dealing with right now 6 months out of the year, so we can have those beautiful summers that we do. But I'll take it 9 times out of 10. So,
yeah. Well, so I want to get into what you did last year, because you had a heater of a year. So I want to start out with, what was your favorite, or the project, it doesn't have to be favorite, but project that stood out the most to you last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one that I probably had the most fun doing was the Oregon Coast Invitational at Astoria. I mean, I've known about the Oregon Coast Invitational for years. I know a bunch of people that have played in it. I didn't truly understand the history and like the scope of what that tournament represents on the Oregon coast in the Pacific Northwest. But it is truly a fun event, and now they allow, like, I think kids 6 and older to, like, they have flights for everyone, right? Doesn't matter what flight you're going to be in, it's going to be competitive. And I can't tell you how many people that I met that said, oh yeah, I met my buddy playing in this 30 years ago, and now we rent the same house for the last 30 years, and our families come down. Now our son's playing it together. And just like, that's the whole vibe there. And so going down and being a part of that, and it's open to the public. Anybody can go. You don't have to be a member at Astoria. You can go down and answer to be in it. It's a week long in the summer, same week every year. And it's just really, really special. So that was probably the one that stood out as, like, I guess I wasn't expecting it to be as fun as it was. But man, I was lucky. It started, the big one for me early was Bandon. I got to shoot a fun tournament here, a group, Maven Golf, and they do, a group of tournaments all around. And I ended up meeting some good buddies and kind of knowing of them, but ended up shooting them in the tournament. But 4 days down at Bandon, feet were tired, everything. But I was super pumped to do that. And then, coming full circle, I worked on a lot of cool stuff all year, but certainly there was one that I had scheduled on my list since the start of the year. I missed out on it last year, and it was this event at Landman called The Cooler that my good friend Jeff Birch puts on, and Will Anderson, the owner of Landman. They have a Ryder Cup event that started as a Ryder Cup event. And now it's kind of, invite your buddies, invite whoever you want, come out, have a ball. And that was the one that I remember January 1st, first few weeks of the year, my wife and I go over the calendar and say, look, what are we thinking? What are we doing? And I said, this is the one. It's off limits. I'm going. You can't say anything about it. And so as it came to be, we ended up being able to work out a little deal with the good folks out at Sand Valley and Dream Golf to go there before. So we ended up playing 5 top 100 courses in 4 days. And so we got 3 full days at Sand Valley, and then we got 3 full days at Landman. And I mean, I just can't even say enough about. Obviously, I've been to Bandon a bunch. Love Bandon. It's the best golf resort in the world. Sand Valley is very unique. You can tell it's Dream Golf's second attempt at the master plan of building resort. They also have more land there, and they have you know, easier environmental regulations to deal with too.
You're not limited coastal side, and then you're not limited. The middle of the country doesn't give a shit.
Yeah,
They're gonna let them do a lot more out there.
Yeah,
I mean, we're a little snobby out on the West Coast. The environmentalists don't let you do a lot of shit out.
No, I mean, and that's the red tape that goes with it, right? And so, very fortunate to the team out there at Sand Valley for letting us come out. And you know, I was like true PNW golfer fashion. You know, had my group there, whether our tee time was that early or not. Unfortunately, if you're on a golf trip with me, or if you're invited to play golf with me, you better expect to be at the course at sunrise and not leave until sunset. Shout out my good buddy Jeff Marsh. We always would meet up at Gamble years and years ago, and that was the whole thing. Is you know, we give each other the head nod and kind of be like, "Oh, where are you going? Where am I going? Let's make sure these drones don't crash." But it's, you know, if I'm going out there, if I'm going to be away from my family, you better believe I'm going to maximize every second of daylight that I have. And so it was so much fun. But the first day I was out filming, everybody was getting ready. I hit like 5 shots on the range. It was like, okay, I'm good. Let's go. Was filming, and of course was like walking to the tee box the minute we were supposed to tee off. So it was a good joke. Everybody was like, yeah, of course, that's what's happening. But I also will say that I break what everybody thinks the camera guy's slow. Chris has played with me. I think anybody that has played with me can attest that I sure do make up for it. And I always will. Everybody always says, "Oh, they know someone who's a fast player." I'm like, "Well, let's go play together. Let's see who can play this round faster." I take a lot of pride in no practice swings. But again, like that was just one of the fun. Everybody was waiting for me, and it was just kind of set the tone, right? And we had a great trip there, but then Landman, that was the one that I think, you know, I'm very rarely speechless when I talk about a golf course, try to explain a golf course. It took me a month to kind of go through the content, go through everything, and fully be able to even vocalize what I experienced there. The scale of that property is like nothing, and you hear that a bunch, right? So like, I was ready for it. For it, but it slapped me in the face harder than I was expecting, and it's just incredible from start to finish. You know, we kind of had a debate about like everybody's like there's like 2 or 3 holes that are kind of like okay, but I was pretty quick to be able to be like, well, this is why this is great. This is why this is great. But again, that's, you know, public golf, right? The tee time selection process is tough. So if you're not quick on the trigger, or don't follow instructions, I got so many DMs this year. I want to tell, and like public service announcement, if you want to book tee times at Landman, the server does not allow you to book more than 1 tee time at a time. So if you have 5 tee times in your cart, it will not let you check out. I got a dozen, you know, DMs from people who are saying it's crashing. And unfortunately, there was an instruction on the main page. I don't think a lot of people read. I know it's, you know, it's not the perfect system, but I do have to defend them in saying there was instructions on why half of the people that were messaging me crashed on it. And again, it's just, there's a reason why there's such a demand for it. And I think, again, public golf like that, and what will, you know, they closed, they hosted us for our event, and then after we left, they had a big high school event, you know, and, you know, they give a bunch of gear to the local schools. They do so much for the local community. And I don't think people, you know, understand, you know, the Anderson family's been there for generations, right? And then they came over from, I think it was Finland. They're Dutch. And so, and actually I don't want to butcher that. So maybe let's, you know, don't quote me on that. But the Anderson family's been around that area for so long, and they do such such good things for the community out there. So it's just, again, a special place. But I would say if you ever have the opportunity to, you got to get out there. Again, it's a short season, right? Because again, the elements are tough out there. But King Collins design, and the green complexes. I mean, I can't even put it into perspective. Like, you think Old Mac's crazy, like, wait until you see this place. And that's what I think. I told people that, and they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, no. Like, you think greens are giant at Old Mac, wait till you go there. And the coolest thing about it too is that community. It's a farming community, right? So we had guys playing in that event that were playing in the tournament on Will's team, because it's kind of like home team Nebraska versus the world. And so guys playing on Will's team, and then they got done with their golf, and it was, it's October. So, it's crop, they're cropping. Everybody's cropping. They went and hopped on their combines, cropped all night, came back and played the next day. Damn. I mean, and we left the course and it's dark, and all you see is lights of the combines just out there in the dust piles from them. And you realize, again, like, there's a reason why the logo is, and there's a corn, a husk on there. And it's the Heartland is a different place. And I will say, like, what you can attest to in Minneapolis. So we flew into Minneapolis and then drove out to Wisconsin and then down. And I mean, the Midwest, Southern hospitality is the thing. But
no, Midwest is way
Southern hospitality
on a higher level.
They say what that you want to hear, but then they're going to talk about you behind your back. In the Midwest, they're sincere. They mean it. They want you to come back. And I mean, just salt of the earth people. And I just felt, the one thing about Sand Valley and Landman is I felt like I was at home. I felt comfortable where I was at, and that's a great testament to both properties and what they've done, and the vibe they've created there, because it's not often, I can be a lot of places in the world and don't feel like I'm at home, that are a lot closer than, Nebraska and Wisconsin. So
I mean, so I look at Colin, King Collins design. I look at them as being the modern Mike Strantz. My bucket list courses are Landman. I mean, probably the two top right now are Landman, and then Mike Strantz's course in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Those two are way up there for me. And Ashton has played Sweetens a bunch.
Yeah.
And so Landman is very high. He was able to get out to Sand Valley this year and got to play the Lido.
Yeah.
And he had nothing but high regards for, he goes, the Lido is a course you want to play once a year to test your abilities. It wouldn't be a course I'd play every day.
See,
but he goes, every other course on property, I could literally loop them all day, every day, and absolutely love it.
See, and that's so funny, because I got my, I was waving the white flag by the time we came home at the Lido. It was the afternoon round. We played a morning 18, but it's funny because I think if I was ever gonna join somewhere, it would be the Lido. Because I could play that 4 times, 5 times a week, and you can play it so many different ways in different winds, and you just experience, you have to play it, again, playing it once, I'm I still didn't even get the full, I feel like it's a course you have to play so many times to be able to fully understand. But again, I'm very I have a lot of takes like that people are like, you are crazy, but I'm like, that's just,
it's all our opinion. That's the way I look at doing this podcast. Dude, we've been roasted for so many things.
Oh yeah,
I hate Peter Jacobson design golf courses, and I go ape shit on Peter Jacobson stuff, and the only one that I let him slide is Stone Creek. I really like Stone Creek.
Yeah.
But I hate Oregon Golf Club. Like, there's a couple courses in Southern California that we played that we absolutely hate. Cypress, what was it called? Cypress something down in Southern California. We absolutely hated that. And Peter Jacobson designed. But, I think it's everybody's opinion is the best part about golf course architecture, because it's the way I look at art, like fine art. I look at Picasso shit and I'm like, I don't understand why anybody would pay money for that. But then, I didn't grow up in that generation or the style of stuff, but I would pay big money for cost stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I would pay big money for a cost statue. But that's the type of art that I'm into. And in my opinion that's fine art. And for me, where everybody should have a different opinion. Nobody should think that the same golf. I mean, you're going to find groups of people that are going to have the same mindset as you, but that's the best part about golf course architecture. And that's what I love about playing so many different courses is I love hearing people's opinion, because Ashton would like playing it once a year.
Yeah.
You would like to get a membership today and go play it fucking 5 times in a row. Like, but that's cool though. I mean, that shows that the Lido it's so unique that there's going to be volatile, opinions.
Well, and I think too, like that, my joke was after like we left, I was like left the course and I was like, I just played like my 2 favorite golf courses ever, and they both start with an L. And I mean, like, again, like that's like, there's a little bit of pain in that for me, because like Gamble Sands has always been close to my heart, as one of my like favorite golf courses. I love Pronghorn to death, which again, a lot of people are like, what? Like, and I'm like, I love Nicholas. Like, Nicholas is such a tough test of golf. And then like, whereas like, I think too, like Tobacco Road was another one for me. Like Tobacco Road is like, you either
that's
love
the course I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's my second. That's on my bucket list.
You
top 2.
You love it or you hate it. And it's just like, I mean, I played it, the first time I played it was after the Masters. So I got the flag in the back. 2019, I got lucky enough, won the lotto for Wednesday tickets, went to the Masters. And after, we wanted to do a golf trip after, so decided to go to Pinehurst. So drove up there. I was solo. Ended up meeting a buddy that lived in Pinehurst at the time, but drove up there solo, played Tobacco Road, first tee time of the day, walked it solo. Just, crispy, beautiful spring morning. Was probably ended up being 75 degrees that day, so it was a little chilly in the morning. And I get out there and, had the time of my life. Just taking pictures, doing my thing, hanging out. Before I had a drone, which that's like, oh my gosh, if I would have had it on that trip, that would have been game changer. But, had such a good time, went back into the clubhouse, and I was like, what's your guys' replay rate? And they were like, we'll let you take a cart and go back out there for $75. And I was like, give me a hot dog, give me 2 beers, and give me that cart, man. I'm going right back out there. And so went and looped it twice. And again, like I was in Pinehurst that weekend, at Pinehurst Brewery right after it opened, having some beers with like a couple other guys that were all, everybody in Pinehurst at like Masters weekend, everybody's kind of doing the same thing. Yeah. Like, they're either, that's their Masters week trip, or they were just at Augusta, kind of, similar vibes. And I told people what I did. I told people I played Tobacco Road twice. And these guys were like, looked at me like I was a Martian, dude. Like, not from this planet. And one of the guys, I was like, just like talking about like strengths and like the design and all this. He got up and like left the table. He's like, I can't listen to this guy. And I was like, dude, did I offend him? I was like, and they were like, dude, he played the worst round of his life at Tobacco Road. So he never wants to like.
The thing is, you can't go into Tobacco Road thinking you're going to play the best round of your life. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I know I'm going to shoot like high 80s, if not in the 90s. Like, that place, first time you see it, is going to eject you.
Oh, well, and it's like, that was the fun about it, is like, it's another thing that like, so like Landman some of these places that have some incredible undulation on the greens is the best part. Wine Valley is another similar one.
Yeah.
Gamble, all these, like, you hit the ball and watching it roll is half the fun, man, seeing where it ends up, right? And that's, again, you have to go into courses. I can't tell you how many times I play with, some of my buddies from AZ or some of my buddies that, pretty good sticks, but don't quite understand links golf. And you get out there, and I go to gamble, and I'm like, that's your aiming line. And they're like, you're out of your mind. I'm like, trust me, dude, that's where you want to aim.
It's going to hit the hill, and it's going to shoot 40 yards left.
Hunting flags. Like, if you hunt flags, you are going to get punished. Even if you're a scratch golfer and you think it's, So, again, it's funny to see it, but that's why golf is so beautiful, right? And that's why I love doing what I do is one thing that I'm very, I kind of had a no BS policy on is that from the time, obviously I love my clients. I love working, it's pretty easy to spot one of my clients when I'm doing work for them, and then you see it on their page and all that. So obviously I'm not going to say anything negative about them, but I give very honest course reviews of, from going back. And I think that's why I've built the following that I have is I think people trust the opinion that I give, that you're going to get the honest opinion. And again, if you follow my page, you're probably going to respect the opinion that I have. And so it's one of those that I really take pride in, trying to give a voice to some of these kind of small, cool courses. But at the same time, I recognize, the work that I do with private clubs is cool too,
Yeah.
And so I can't say that one thing or the other is my favorite, but it is certainly. I'll pinch myself sometimes when I'm sitting out there, and it's 6:45 in the morning, and there's only the greens crew and me out on a golf course. And flying the drone, and I'm just like,
it's one of the best feelings ever.
I'm getting paid to do this,
Yeah.
I'm getting paid to do this right now, and that's where I think again goes back to the passion, right? Is the fact that the reason why everybody's like, I get a lot of questions about like, again, how'd you do it? How'd you get into it? All this. I think with the drone, especially, people are always like, man, you've got it like really dialed. And I said, there's a reason why, and I put top 5% for DJI flight time in the world in my profile because I was proud of it, right? And it's the reason why I've gotten to where I've gotten. Is this morning I was out at Eastmoreland with my boys, and we were just, putting around, hitting the driving range. We go there all the time. I flew the drone for 20 minutes, right? And we'll be at the beach. I'll go fly the drone for 20 minutes at sunset. And so all this little bit of everything I do helps in the long run. But I don't think people realize, like, if I'm on a job, I'm there at 5:45 and I'm leaving at 9 o'clock at night, and it's literally, I'm draining 9 drone batteries, I'm draining 2 camera batteries, I'm taking 2,000 photos, and I've done that 200, 300 times, 400 times over the last 5 years. So, again, people always say, how'd you do it? Take 20 million photos, and you're going to hopefully you get pretty good at it after that. If not, there's probably something else you could do better with your time. But man, it's been fun. And I think, I think back to the little old camera that I started on, and now, having a couple Sonys, and, starting from the little old mini drone and now having the big boy. It's been so much fun. And even my kids now, man, they joke. Every time they see a plane in the sky, my oldest will go, "Dad, that's low. That's like drone could go that high." And I'll be like, no, we don't fly the drone that high. Let's not talk about drones and planes. Let's keep those two separate from conversations.
Man, I mean, speaking on like, I think the biggest thing is, like you were talking about, honesty when giving feedback and course review. I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but you definitely will know who I'm talking about. But we went down, and It was one of the first municipal trips we did. We did to Southern California, and we went to Rams Hill, and our experience was absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
And they were having issues with agronomy.
Yeah.
Everything was super slimy out there. Like they were having this overgrown, like weird, like algae-ish stuff growing everywhere. It was really bad. They charged us an insane amount of money to play with those type of conditions. So we saw a really bad situation, and we gave our honest review. And this particular guy, who also is connected with Bar Run, reached out to us and absolutely tried to rip us a new one for not giving them a fair shake. And we were like, dude, we came out. The people in the clubhouse treated us like shit. The course looked like crap. It cost a ton of money. Like, just there were so many negatives and no positives that, we gave our honest review. And for a course to then, or a person that's tied to that course, reach out to us and basically like just try to rip our throats out like we're a bunch of idiots and don't know what we're talking about, which of course it's our opinion. We're amateurs at this, and we're just saying what we want to say. That leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And even though we've been told by about 50 people that we know that live in Southern California, and even Troy, our videographer for us, has gone out there and done a project with them recently, he keeps telling us we got to go back out there and give it another try.
Yeah.
We're so hesitant to do it because of the response that we got based off of that.
Well, and I think too, that's one of the that's one of the things that I talk to my clients about when we're talking about social media management, when we're talking about, what I like to think what I offer is not just photography, videography. Like, I can offer marketing help in a lot of different ways, right? And I mean, even from what merchandise is in your pro shop, from a buying perspective, because that's marketing, right? Your logo on whatever is marketing. And I think, again, like, one of the things that, like, if I'm managing an account of a golf course, and if I'm ever on someone's account, if it's an Instagram takeover, if it's whatever, there is a generic response that you have, that you send to that course or to that person that's reaching out to you. If there's negative feedback, or if there's an argument that's getting started, or if there's whatever coming to you, you send a generic feedback and you give the number of someone at the course, the head pro or the GM or someone at the course, and that's what you say. And you don't go any further, because the problem is you don't know who you're talking to. You don't know the relationships that person has, and you don't know the repercussions that could take on, an entire, a property and a bunch of people deciding to come or not come. And I think that's the thing, is like, everybody loves their course, right? They take pride in what they do, whether it's the work I do and like the video. But like, if I do a video for a course and people are reaching out to me saying, oh, this video sucks, or this isn't a good video, or you should have done this, you should have done that. Do you think it's in the course's best interest for me to reach out and try to start, defending our honor to do it? No. I mean, I think that's, again, it's just not the right thing to do. I think you simply, again, it's every single thing that goes on your website, that goes on your social media. If you're not thinking about it from a PR standpoint, you're looking at it from the wrong lens. And, it's different. I can put whatever I want on my page because it's my page. I'm a person. It is PNW Golfer, but it's Scott Brooks. And everybody that follows my page knows sometimes you're going to get something that I want to. Whatever you're going to get is because I think it's cool and I want to post it. As a business, you don't have that luxury. You can't just post what you want. You should not post political takes.
No.
I'll say it again. You should stay out of politics. You should stay out of religion. You should, I mean, even potentially stay away from some holidays, because it's just something that, again, you don't understand the level of repercussion that goes on in this day and age from a public space. And again, I've learned this from years in retail management and operations for a major sports marketing sports firm. And it's that it's also, again, from the consuming this for years and years and years, and being the person on the end that reaches out to these courses, that gives feedback or says, hey, something was off, this or that, and has seen it come back. And now, again, I'm just trying to offer what I can as far as advice for the courses that want to listen and that want some feedback on it, because I think it's something, again, the bar is set pretty low right now, and we just really, you really, as we come into this next stage, everybody wants something visual, everybody wants something visual, and everybody wants something right now. So if unfortunately, you could have a great presence online. If you haven't posted, if your golf course hasn't posted since November of last year, you're not capitalizing the way you can. And again, I'm there to help if you need it. But it's the thing about it that, again, like, I just can't stress it enough that having a website that you want to go to look through photos, for private clubs, I want to be able to tell buddies, look at my club, look at this place, you can come play here, like, take pride in the place that you work, take pride in the place that you represent. And I think the coolest feedback that I've gotten, and it's always 9 times out of 10, it's the superintendent, man. They come up to me and they're like, dude, these pictures that you've been taking are epic. You know why? Because they're the ones putting in the work every single day, making that place look as good as it is. And again, it's I've gotten some great compliments, and again, 9 times out of 10, they're coming from that superintendent or someone on the greens crew. Because again, I think that and it's trickled down, right? It's the super, it's the GM, it's the head pro. And if you have the right mentality going into it, you have happy employees that are treating people good. And it all trickles down. And I always joke that, there's always going to be bad reviews that come in, right? And we just kind of talked about it, right? Like, you're going to get negativity, but it's how you respond to that negativity that is everything, right? Because there's no course, I don't care how bad, it's got to be like how bad the course is, most golfers are going to try to give it another chance, unless they really, really have a bad taste in their mouth, or unless it's a golf course on Greenland, right? Like, you're probably going to go back to it. So I think it's just a way that you have to look at it from a different lens. But again, I'm excited this year. There's going to be some things that are kind of expanding in what I offer and what I do. So, like, there's kind of the second phase of PNW Golfer coming, and I'm very excited about that. So yeah, we'll kind of keep everyone posted and look for updates as the year goes on that.
So guys, if you don't already, follow Scott, PNW_golfer on Instagram. Check out his stuff. It's absolutely incredible. We were just talking about Landman. He's got a ton of stuff on there from his trip there and at Sand Valley. If you want to add some more views on the Wildwood one, I don't think Ryan would hate that one either.
Yeah, right.
But check out his whole page if you don't already follow him.
And
great content.
One thing I'll add is if anybody has recommendations, you got that hidden gem that doesn't have exposure, that doesn't have, that you think is in your neck of the woods or whatever, I want to know about it. I'll try to make it a point to try to get out there if I'm in the area to come see your spot. And, I always joke too, the reason why I feel like it's social media, right? I'm social. I'll respond to those DMs. So if you DM me, I'll respond to you because, again, I just want to have the conversation that you want to too. It's just all the same golf degenerate stuff. But, I'm always looking for those hidden gems. So feel free to reach out and throw me those. So.
That's one of my favorite things is when we get DMs and guys are like, hey, I'm making a trip to, the Bay Area. We've listened to all your content and all the courses you've done in the Bay. Can you give me, a quick top 5 of like hitters that we should hit while we're there? And those always get me so excited because I just love talking golf courses. Like,
Yeah.
I can talk golf course architecture and hidden gems all day. My goal is to expand more throughout the United States in the next coming years. I think I've hit the West Coast as hard as I can. There's still some out there that, Gamble Sands has been one that's eluded me.
Yeah.
So me and you have to make a trip out there. I need to do Gamble Sands big time. But I've gone out to, insane places. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of Buffalo Peak.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, dude.
Fucking awesome golf course. Nobody that I ever have talked to knows about that course.
Yep.
But it is in this like open plain, Buffalo Plains of Eastern Oregon, and it is spectacular.
Yeah.
But those are the places that I want to know about. When we go do our next travel series, which you guys will find out here soon, I want to know, every single nook and cranny of the state that we're going to be traveling to. So, yeah, keep those DMs flowing to us, to Scott. Let us know where those places are at. We definitely want to showcase them and check out your spots that you call your local, watering holes. So, all right, Scott. Well, thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it. I think everybody's going to be stoked to listen to kind of your feedback on some of the best courses that you've been able to, have some ties to and get out and do some footage for. But the courses he talked about as well, go to their websites. They have Scott's stuff on there in a larger scope than what he's going to have on Instagram as well.
Yeah.
Check out anything. If you see a course on his Instagram, you can pretty much go to their website and probably find some of their content. So check it out. Appreciate you, Scott.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. Let's golf soon.
Yes, sir.
All right, buddy.
How hard did you push it? Till I black out? Yes. Numerous times, yes.